Retro Hangover, supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarnes, Tony G, Tom the Superhero, Studstill Smash the Milkman, Lucas from Game Over Hell, Mast Keaton, Ozzy Garcia, JC, Megan Caruso, Rick Firestone, Dave Jackson, Jenny E, Retro Overdrive, Soha, The Emperor, Storm Beagle, Matt, aka Stormageddon, Van Vernal, and B-Ross from Super Garbage Day, Randall Quiggle, Raging Demon, Keith Gasper, The Retro Vixen, Eric Guess, Nomad from the Retro Wildlands podcast, Ash Event, Alan Bingham, Mike the Ref from Backbreaker Gaming, Ryan Player One, Alt, Gary Heather, Low 5 Alex, Renner Dreamin', Oh Me, Makeshift Money, and Sega Boy 7. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
Hello, retro and classic gamers. Welcome to the podcast where we diligently daily dice, dill doused, and dandelion decadently. This is Retro Hangover. I am your co-host, Chris Copleen, with special guest, the leader of the official Quest 64 fan club, and, as always, your host, Shane Superfly Dick Dragon! Salter!
You know, next time you do that, Chris, it's gonna be your ass.
Can you say that? I don't know if you can say that.
Yep.
Well, you did say it.
You called me Superfly. I'm just leaning into it, man.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's the most appropriate thing you can do.
Is that what he sounds like?
I mean, listen.
I didn't get to hear him in my version, so
It is.
I'm just going to trust.
Oh my God. Wait, you don't have voice line? Oh man, this is gonna. All right, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. What the fuck did you play? Did you play the Game Boy version? You played the Game Boy version, didn't you?
I mean, I have, but not for this show. I did not know.
I almost did. I'm not going to lie. I thought about just completely not playing the actual game and just playing the Game Boy port. I mean, you can't even really call it a port. I don't know, reimagining and just coming in and just playing it straight the whole time. Just being like, yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I didn't see any of that.
I almost thought you were going to stop and you're like, I almost thought about not playing the game.
Well, that may have crossed my mind too, but are we giving away our hand too early? I don't know.
No, it's like pre-biased judgments are out there, and we don't want to use that to judge this game prematurely. And that's something that guest today that I greatly appreciate their social media presence. I think it's fantastic that Mike puts out there about a lot of games. And I just want to say, hey, thank you for that, because you do turn the narrative on a lot of those old bad game kind of misconceptions, or you kind of give these games another shot. Not saying Daikatana will or will not have that, but yeah, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you here.
No, entirely my pleasure. You know, long time listener, first time sword user, I guess.
I mean, from the pre-recording, that's technically true.
Yes.
Before we get into today's game, which is Daikatana, because we have not said that yet, and I'll just get out of the way. Yes, the game that John Romero said was going to make you his bitch 3 years before the game came out. We are going to talk about what games that we have been playing lately. And as a tradition, as we are wont to do, we allow our guest to talk about what game they have been playing first. So, Mike, what games have you been playing lately?
Well, I was supposed to be doing a Dave Jackson backlog thing for this year, and I decided I was going to play all DS games. But then my kids got into Pokemon when the Pokemon Pocket app came out late last year, or over Christmas break was when they really started. So pretty much my middle daughter and I have been playing Pokemon Arceus, and then my younger son and I have been playing Pokemon Shield, and then I've been spending all my money on their Pokemon physical card crack habit now. So that's how I've been spending all my time. I was most recently playing Ghost Trick on the DS, the Capcom joint, up until this all happened. So hopefully at some point they let me return to my normal gaming duties, but right now it's all Pokemon.
Ghost Trick, my youngest son loves Ghost Trick. He played it for the DS, and I think he got the remaster. He really enjoys it. So you might be in for a treat there. Also, physical Pokemon cards. I've been getting into fights at your local Walmart.
No, because there's never anything on the shelf there, so there's nothing to fight over.
Not that location.
Yeah, or any for that matter. Don't see much of them retail. So most of it they've been buying like bulk. Just, 1,000 random cards and then picking the singles they want, and then occasionally finding a pack here and there.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the insanity. I can't comprehend what's going on with that stuff right now. Doesn't make any sense to me. All right, Shane, how about yourself?
Oh man, let's see. What have I been up to? So let's see. The Guild Wars, the first one, was having an anniversary right now. All their stuff was on sale for like super cheap. Now, granted, I had a Guild Wars account many moons ago. I do not remember what the login information for that was. It was before I was using a password manager. So I think that's just lost to time. So I started a new one anyway, but I got everything because the original Guild Wars doesn't have a subscription. So it's just like you buy once, you can play it forever until the servers go down. So I paid like $7.99 and got the game plus all the expansions and the extra like content, blah, 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 like for like $8. So I jumped into that again a little bit because it's like an MMO, but not really. It was a somewhat unique take on the formula at the time when everybody was trying to do the WoW theme park MMO thing. And this is more like you have social hubs, but most of the game, or pretty much almost all the game, you can just kind of solo if you want to. You can group with people, but it's all like instance based. And frankly, I actually kind of like that, especially now when I just don't have like hours and hours to sit and grind stuff out or do, raids or whatever. So I think it kind of scratches the MMO itch for me, but it does it in a way that I can do it in like manageable chunks. And there's no real like daily quests because that garbage wasn't really a thing at that time. So it's kind of nice. I don't have that like ever present FOMO compulsion to have to log in like every day and do things. So it's kind of refreshing. It's just there when I want to play it, like a game should be. But besides that, not a whole lot other than what we've got going on for the show. We got a lot of stuff happening right now. So I'm trying to get time in on a number of things. Actually, just today, I installed the PC version of Sonic R, the Windows release from 1998. It is actually the better version, by the way. Has better draw distances, et cetera, et cetera. But I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole and found the fan-made patch updater and mod manager for it and fixed it up a little bit. And it runs on Windows 11 without any issues. So that is how I'm playing Sonic R. So there you go.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm looking forward to your opinions on Sonic R in 2 weeks.
Man, it controls like hot trash. Great. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But
you're talking about spoiling things now. Come on now.
I mean, listen. Does anybody know? Okay, I feel like that's not a hot take, Chris. Like, come on now.
Do you want look forward to our thoughts on Sonic R in 2 weeks from now? You might be surprised.
Yeah. This Sonic hates this one trick. Yeah. Other than that's basically it. I did grab, and I think it's only like $2.99 just normally. It's a little bite-sized game, but it's called Tiny Dangerous Dungeons on mobile, and it's a remaster, I guess, this game was released a while ago, but they like remastered it and re-released it. It's pretty cool, actually. It's like a compact Metroidvania that you can probably finish in like a couple of nights. And it's actually really well designed. I was afraid not playing with a controller that it was going to suck trying to play with like the virtual, like D-pad type thing on a phone. But there's really just like 4 buttons. It's like left, right, a jump, and then an attack, and that's it. And all the controls are actually super responsive. So if you are in the mood for, a little nibble of the Castlevania, of the Metroid on your mobile device on the go, I would suggest that one. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome.
But what about you, Chris? What you doing?
Mostly stuff for the show. So just to kind of, talk about some things that you discussed. Sonic R, I beat that. Look forward to talking about it. I'll leave it at that. I installed Wizardry. I saw you playing that on the stream. Again, I'm going to withhold what I want to say about it. People in our Discord chat know what my initial thoughts are. Very optimistic for where that game could go. We'll see. Because I've heard that game can hate you. That will be an episode a little down the line after Sonic R. Aside from that, I played a game for the Sega Saturn. We're really hitting the gems right now, Shane. And that game is called Quake Killer Graveyard Edition.
Hell yeah. That sounds metal as fuck.
It sounds metal as fuck. It does. It's not. Aww. It's delightful, though. It has some of the best B-movie acting I've ever seen. By best, I mean worst. That's why I absolutely love it. Also, the graphics, it's like someone took a video of an area and like scrolled through the area and then put a bunch of GIFs of zombies over it. And that's what you shoot.
Wow. All right.
It's legendary. It's amazing for all the wrong reasons. And that will be on IO Saturnalia at some point. But yeah, again, it's all games for content. I need to get out of that. I need to play a game for myself. I think that's going to happen here soon now that Sonic R has been conquered. And I might have a little more free time coming up soon. I can't exactly get into why on this platform, but I should be able to get maybe I can get to some East 10. I'm looking forward to some East 10, and that's long overdue. Really get into that, and then I can turn that into more content.
Yay! The content machine demands more.
Content machine, yeah, it does. Anyway, enough about the games that we have been playing. It is time to get into the brief history of today's game, which is Daikatana. And since Shane is John Romero's bitch, he said that he would be what? He said he would be willing to give a brief history about it. So Shane, give us the brief history of Daikatana.
I never agreed to any of this. When you establish yourself as a legend, it often brings the confidence to take risks and shape your legacy in new and exciting ways. This was certainly true for John Romero. After achieving tremendous success at id Software as a co-developer of groundbreaking titles like Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, and Quake, Romero set out to forge his own path by founding Ion Storm. His goal was to create games free from the constraints and interference of publishers. However, Ion Storm ultimately partnered with Eidos Interactive, securing a $13 million advance and a $30 million budget to develop 3 titles, including the ambitious Daikatana. Daikatana drew inspiration from foundational first-person shooters, but its concept also incorporated elements reminiscent of Chrono Trigger's time travel and The Legend of Zelda's iconic sword, blending these influences into a unique vision. Initially developed on the original Quake engine with a planned release of December 1997, the project shifted to the more advanced Quake 2 engine after Romero saw its capabilities, resulting in significant delays and technical challenges. Internal turmoil at Ion Storm, including high staff turnover and management conflicts, further hindered progress, leading to repeated missed deadlines and growing skepticism within the industry. The game's first public showing at E3 in 1999 was underwhelming, as the demo ran at only 12 frames per second, hardly the showcase needed to generate excitement. Daikatana eventually launched on the Nintendo 64 in Japan in April of 2000, followed by releases in Europe and North America, with the PC version arriving in North America in May of that same year. Regardless of platform, the game was met with widespread critical and commercial disappointment. The PC version, for example, received an aggregate score of just 54% on game rankings, and was criticized for its outdated graphics, poor artificial intelligence, and lackluster gameplay. PC Zone notably remarked, "Romero's reputation is based on the fact that he is the daddy of game design. Daikatana must be his illegitimate child." Commercially, the game sold only around 40,000 copies, a disastrous result given its substantial budget. In the years since release, Daikatana has become synonymous with high-profile failures in the video game industry. Although fans have attempted to improve the game through patches, its reputation remains largely unchanged, and there have been no significant efforts to revive the series. And that is your brief history of Daikatana.
All right, thank you, Shane. Sounds like everything went swimmingly.
Yeah, it was great.
And
they were like, what if we went and did things on our own without the support of publishers or funding? What if we did that? And they were like, oh, wait, no.
Didn't quite work out the way they wanted it to.
No.
At least they made Deus Ex.
Dude, that's such just the juxtaposition of those two games is abso-fucking-lutely wild to me, because you have this one game that is just this so deeply crunchy and complex, like, character RPG that is so like impenetrable to most people that it takes forever to like really get into it. But once you do, it's just like fantastic. And then you have this. Like, it's just, oh man, just like night and day.
Anything about the history stick out to you, Mike, or anything you want to add there?
No. The N64 history is a little different because obviously it was kind of a companion piece. The game is significantly different for the N64, like I'm sure we'll talk about over and over here, but it was a Blockbuster exclusive. So to try to boost popularity through the rental space, it came out in August of 2000 in Blockbuster only in the United States. 3 months later, when nobody rented it, they put it on retail shelves for $19.99, which was dummy cheap for Nintendo 64 games in 2000.
Oh, yeah.
And it sold none.
It sold copies.
Yes. It sold the copies that exist today.
At least one person bought it. Yeah. The ones that will cost you $95 loose if you want to find it. It's ridiculous. It still blows my mind that technically the N64 version is the original version of this game. Technically speaking. It did come out first there.
Well, didn't the European PC version, didn't the PAL PC version come out just before the N64 version?
No. The Japanese N64 version is the original release.
I guess I've never looked at the dates of that.
It was not intentionally, right? It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't designed for the N64. It's primarily PC, of course. But so I mean, original, I'm using it very tongue in cheek, very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely came out for it first, which, yeah, is just mind blowing to me. And I don't remember seeing it Blockbuster, and I had no interest in it. So, yeah, I was not one of the 0 people who bought it, unfortunately. Complete box. I should have sold it should have had 2000 me should have had 25-year foresight.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with the housing market. Like, how dare you not buy a house when you were a fetus?
Yeah, right. Damn you, Shane. All right. So let's get into personal experiences with this game. I don't know what the rotation is going to be here. And it sounds like in some of the conversations we've had behind the scenes that Mike's probably going to have the most robust experiences, as is kind of the case with our guests. That's why they're usually here. But I will start because I will be quick. I saw ads for this game and I have not touched it until we got ready for this episode. I can't remember. Shane, did you recommend this, or Mike, did you recommend this? I don't know how this ended up on our schedule.
I think I agreed to it. I don't think I recommended it.
Yeah,
okay.
I think I was the one that was like, hey, wouldn't that be funny if we did that?
Yes. Okay. Yes, you did. So that's the extent of my experience with Daikatana prior to this episode. So, Shane, what was your personal experience with this?
Great. Yeah. Nothing up until now, because if you listened to the show before, you probably know I've mentioned it on a few occasions. I was a longtime subscriber to PC Gamer magazine, and I saw the run up to this thing. Like I saw all the ads, I saw all the, like, in retrospect, manufactured hype for it. And then I saw the reviews, all of the scathing reviews. And I was like, maybe I should give this one a pass. And I have for, like, what, 20, 25 years, something like that. So
would be 25.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Yeah. 25 years I've been avoiding this game until now. And was that the right decision? Who knows? Stay tuned to find out.
Hooray. All right, Mike, how about yourself? What is your personal experience with this?
So I tried to pin down, I did play it on PC, not when it came out, but a few years later. I think sometime around 2003, I separated myself away from the Diablo 2 and Counter-Strike binging that I was doing at the time to play it for at least a little while. I didn't get very far. I had played Half-Life and enjoyed Half-Life and just thought maybe I wasn't smart enough for Daikatana. Like maybe it was like Radiohead, where Mike just wasn't on the intellectual level to enjoy that like his peers were. And I put it down and I didn't play it again until I played the N64 version probably 5 years ago. I only played it for an hour or two, not enough to realize all the differences up until this last month when I played it for you guys, and was pretty shocked by how different it was from the PC experience I remember, which I didn't beat it back then, but I know the game was longer and more, there was a lot more going on, way more in depth.
Yeah. I wanted to do the N64 version for this episode as well, because I had heard rumors that it was the better version, but you would know better at this point because now you could compare them. But again, like I previously stated, a loose copy of this game is $95, and I'm not paying $95 for a copy of Daikatana. I wish I had an EverDrive. That would have made it a lot easier, but no. I'm probably going to say some pretty surprising things about this game overall, especially given its reputation. There's a little bit of a spoiler, but I will say not enough to justify paying that price. No way. So, what is he going to say? Who knows? But yeah, like I'm glad you have that varied experience, because myself and Shane sound like we're just coming from the PC side. So you having that point of view for both is really going to help out this conversation. So let's get into the game's plot and writing. And I'm not going to read what the manual says. It's 2-page, small text, will be here forever. So I'll just kind of sum it up the best I can and how the game presents it to you. You are Hiro Miyamoto, and you're a sword maker in the future? ? And an old man comes to visit you and tells you in the past that, or the future, or in some sort of timey-wimey situation, that the Daikatana was used to establish the current time frame, and you need to go and fix it by the evil Mishima. By the way, a couple names here kind of stuck out to me. Miyamoto, that is definitely an homage to Shigeru Miyamoto, That has been stated. That's why his name is Hiro Miyamoto to Shigeru. Mishima, I think, is interesting because I think Mishima, the Mishimas are the family in Tekken that are also a bunch of like evil corporate weirdos who keep throwing their offspring into volcanoes and stuff. So like that, those were some things that stuck out to me immediately. But you have to go find the Daikatana that has magical powers that apparently the Miyamotos created ages ago and get it back to, what's Makiko's name? What's their last name?
Ebihara.
Ebihara?
Yeah.
Is it Ebihara?
Yeah, Makiko Ebihara.
Okay. So the Ebiharas, and get them the sword because they're going to defeat the evil Mishimas or something. That's where it starts, and you progress, and you find teammates, the power of friendship, or do you, and do all sorts of time traveling. Mike, unfortunately, I'm sorry I've kept you quiet for most of this time. What are your thoughts on the plot and writing here for Daikatana?
I have thoughts. A lot of it wasn't, early on when we were talking, I said, hey, does this seem slow to you? Do you guys have problems with the full motion videos? Obviously, I didn't know you, like, how far you were going to get into the game or anything, but especially later in the game, there was some, like, insufferable length cutscenes. So my thoughts on the plot was I ended up skipping the second half of the game and just reading the strategy guide instead to get the plot. There was, like, when we get to Alcatraz later on, you meet up with a dude that's just kind of sitting around. In my version, he just hands you the bomb to blow up Alcatraz. Like, you don't have to find the pieces. He just gives it to you. He's like, hey, here's a bomb. Have fun. But before that, he's like, I haven't seen anybody in 13 years. And in engine, all the cutscenes on the N64 have to be animated, and there's no voice acting. So that cutscene itself, for him to talk about the bomb, was, I think I clocked it at 12 minutes of watching. And you have
Holy
to
crap.
watch the text boxes at the bottom and then wait for the engine to catch up to the text box to know who's talking, because otherwise you can't even tell like who's saying the lines of dialogue unless you let the N64 go all the way. And then if you accidentally press A at any point, you'll skip it, which I did once or twice, and then I just resorted to reading the strategy guide instead. So great plot, really good if you're able to absorb it somehow. But if you're playing on the N64, I would say of my 10 to 15 hours, 2 hours were probably watching and then rewatching the cutscenes I missed, just slowly animate with no voices.
That's horrible. Or not enjoyable. No, your enjoyment that extends as far as it can for various people.
Yes, enjoyment may vary.
Yes, very much so. So just people understand here where I'm coming from in terms of plot. I did not beat this game. I made it to chapter 3, like right near the end of chapter 3, maybe 2 episodes prior to the end of chapter 3. And the game glitched on me and I could not progress. So there's this wizard that you have to fight. Why are you fighting the wizard? I don't know. The game didn't really explain it to me. It's just because the wizard's there, and if you kill him, you can advance. That seemed to be the generalness of it. Very Doom-like, I'm assuming.
Wait, what? No, they did tell you. What are you talking about?
No, I don't care. The game didn't care. In Doom or in this game?
No, in this game. There's a difference between the game didn't tell you and you don't care. Like, listen,
okay, fair.
I sympathize that you don't care. Okay, like I get it.
Okay,
but it did tell you.
Well, because you're trying to you're trying to energize your sword.
Yeah, you fucking time jump with your magical ninja sword into Norway, like 560 AD, and you're all like, damn, there ain't nothing around here that's going to be able to charge this sword up real good. I guess we need to find something. And then you just so happen to stumble upon a village full of zombies and like one dude in a church who's just like, oh yeah, there's like this necromancer wizardy guy. His name's Nara. And like you could defeat him by reassembling the MacGuffin holy sword called the Purifier. There's 9 pieces that are hidden by the king, and they were hidden very well because it's such a powerful sword. And then you find out that the pieces are actually just hidden in random fucking spots in the same town these assholes are in. So yeah, they definitely told you.
But it's dumb. Did you get any of that in the N64 version?
I mean, I got it. It wasn't quite the same. But yeah, I had to find 7 pieces of Purifier Sword. I can't remember. I mean, we'll talk about that later. I can't remember if it was that one or the 5 pieces of a tablet. Was that the level before that? But
that was in Greece. Yeah, the rune stones or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Aegis stones.
There's some mechanical stuff going on there that stopped me from enjoying the plot. So once again, consulted the ancient tome of the 200-page strategy guide. So.
Yeah. These stones say Aegis, like a shield. What could this mean? How do we make it forward? How do we make it past it?
Man, I love hearing this voice acting that I missed out on. I should have just called you guys and had you voice acted my playthrough over Twitch or something.
That could have been fun.
Now, man, because one of us would have to be like Mikiko, and we'd get fucking canceled real quick. We'll talk about that later in the voice and stuff.
I think you're going to get canceled no matter who you're talking as.
That's actually
except for Hero.
Oh yeah, you mean like fucking? Oh my god, damn it, I forgot his name. I was about to make a joke and now I just ruined it. No. There's the actor that fucking Hero looks like, and I'm trying to remember the like has been American ninja wannabe.
Steven Seagal.
There you go, Steven Seagal. That's what it was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but he sounds like David Hayter. We'll get to that when we get to sound.
Yeah.
Because he definitely, it sounds like he's trying to do his best Snake impression. He doesn't do a bad job, but
yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
speaking of those extra characters, go ahead. What you got?
Oh, no. I mean, I was just going to say, apart from like honing in on that very specific thing about Act 3, I mean, we are talking about the plot and writing here, right? So,
yeah.
Okay. Like, for what it's worth, I'm going to try to be fair and balanced as much as I can be. That I will say that I think some of the ideas here were kind of cool. Like, I didn't know that time travel was a part of it. So ending up in ancient Greece, I was like, oh, all right, that's actually kind of neat. This kind of dovetails into the other discussion later about like gameplay and things like that. But I would say that the game was better for doing that because the first act is trash and so slow.
The first act is so bad.
It's so slog, bad. Dude. Oh my God. So that's kind of neat. I think a lot of it is incredibly contrived, and the dialogue more or less is just absolutely inane. Like the fact that like Mikiko, when you meet up with her in Greece, and she just says like the dumbest shit that no one would ever say, where she's like, never in all my years did I think I'd be standing in front of the Parthenon at its height. And like, who the fuck is... You just time traveled and that's your first, like, that's what you're saying. You're just like, I never would have thought I'd be standing. Like, no shit, bitch. Of course you wouldn't think that. Like, oh God. It's like,
I like how you said it just like she would.
Yeah. Well, it's hard not to, honestly. I'm sure Mike just thinks I'm being incredibly racist, but that's actually what she sounds like in the game, for the record.
Yeah, she's just a bobblehead doll on my game. So like, this is all very enlightening and I'm enjoying it very much.
It's like somebody wrote the dialogue as if it was meant to be like a pulpy, like dime novel or something, that like in ways that people just don't actually talk. It's just so forced.
There's that Saturday morning edutainment angle to it sometimes.
That actually, yeah, that's true. Because of the time travel, you're like, oh, we are in Norway in the Dark Ages.
Better watch out for the bubonic plague, which is carried by rats. Don't get bitten by the rats.
Yeah, except that's listen, man, rats got a bad rap on that one. Okay, it was the parasites. It wasn't the rats. They were just the carriers. They didn't know any better.
Yeah, so the rats carried the parasites.
No, I'm just saying the rats didn't. You know what? Whatever. We're not a history podcast. Fuck off. Anyway, moving on.
No, that's Daikatana.
Yeah,
Daikatana is the history game. It's going to educate you.
Also, can we just talk about the one dude that you meet in 650 AD Norway speaks perfect fucking English?
Of course he does. Because you have a babblefish.
Right.
And a magic sword.
Yeah. And a magic sword.
That's actually, you know what? That's probably what it is. It's also a universal translator. They just never told us. It's part of the expanded universe content for Daikatana.
Why doesn't he have a Norse accent then? Everyone else has an accent. Superfly has a black scent. Mikiko has a very...
Not even talk about the fact that my man's name is Superfly Johnson. It's so... God, dude.
John Romero was in touch with culture, gentlemen.
It was early 2000s. It was a different time. Like this was still this is still when PC Gamer magazine had like full page ads for games with just like chicks with they titties out, and they're just like, hey, look, nips. Also buy lemmings. And you're like, what?
There it is. Right now we're looking at
See, there you go. Point exactly.
So what we're looking at right now is Mike is showing us a picture of, was that the Daikatana strategy guide?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a picture of, I don't know if that's CG or a real woman with her cleavage wide out on a...
That's Kill Creek. She was one of the people who worked on the game, and she also was famous for beating John Romero at some of their games as a playtester and stuff like that. So.
Nice.
You know, I mean, if she's owning it, I'm not going to complain, man. I mean, I can't knock that. OnlyFans exists today, and that's I've been told that's a good thing by certain circles.
Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah,
I've been told. I mean, yeah, I mean the especially when you meet Superfly, like Superfly. Let's get into the characters here. So
yeah, because I have a bone to pick with that scene too, by the way. But go on.
Apparently, in the N64 version, they don't exist. And yeah, so I guess Mike is the lucky one here, and did not get to meet Superfly or Mikiko, or got to meet them, but they just weren't really characters. They were just kind of party members that existed in theory.
Yep.
So you didn't get the full breadth and depth of their personality.
Wait, so in the N64 version, they're not following you around at all?
No, like in the first act, you save Superfly, and then that's the end of that chapter, and you don't see him until the cutscene between episodes 1 and 2. That's it.
What?
And then the same, there's no like follower NPCs. There's no, like Mikiko you see after you rescue her in a cutscene, and then you don't see her again until you push that boulder down is that episode 2 as well? Or is that episode 1? I don't remember. But yeah, so you only get them at the plot beats where you need to talk to them to figure something out. Other than that, you don't see them ever.
That already sounds like a superior version of the game, honestly.
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
So what's the issue after with the Superfly theme?
Well, no. The issue I have is with that scene when you're saving him, because it's very clear that they were either it was a massive oversight or they were just real fucking lazy. I'm not sure which, but like you walk down that hallway of like space prisons, right? Like the little cells with like the force field doors. And then you hit the spot where he's in this, he's chained up in this weird fucking like torture device thing that looks like a big bug or something. It's very weird. And he's just like chilling there. And the disconnect here is that it was like very obvious that the dialogue was written and voice acted for a scene that is not this, because you show up and you say something to him and you're like, you know, what are you doing here? Whatever. And he's like, you both are talking as if you're both looking at the torture device, because he describes it as like, you're like, what is that thing? And he's like, oh, it's some kind of torture device. And he's like, hey, let me out of my cell. He's not in a cell. He's in the torture device, which means that like this originally had to have been written as he was in one of those cells that you walk by with the force field doors, and you have this conversation with him through said force field door, and you're looking over at this big monstrosity in the adjacent room, and you're like, what the fuck is that thing? And he's like, oh, it's a crazy torture device they have. But at some point they must have changed their mind and put him in the device, but never updated any of the dialogue. So it like makes no sense at all. That's my issue with it.
And you can torture him too.
You can, yeah. Maybe that's why they changed it.
Also, his backstory is he ran security for Mishima.
Yes, he was former head of security.
And didn't know they're making burgers out of people.
Yeah, the Mick Mishima like thing. Apparently he never connected the dots on that one somehow.
Even though he had access to every single room in the facility.
Yep.
And could see what they were doing at all times. He just didn't know. It just, you know what? Like, he must have been a really good security director.
I just love how like cartoonishly evil they make Mishima in this, because it's so over the top. Like, he has basically a super prison as a headquarters in the middle of a city that apparently that's just fine. There's like torture rooms and like, you know, cremation furnaces and shit. And apparently nobody cares. And then, and to top it all off, as if that's not bad enough, he's just like kidnapping people and turning them into whoppers, apparently.
You look through history, he could be worse.
Sure.
From what I understand, Mike, you made it to the end of the game. What are some plot beats that you get Alcatraz forward?
So my chapters are way different than yours too. Each episode has 4-ish chapters, not 7, 8, or 9. I can't remember how many the PC version has.
There's 6. There's 24 total chapters in the PC version.
Okay, there's 16 plus,
or 24 total episodes.
Yeah, there's 16 plus like a split one at the end. So you go from Alcatraz to the Mishima Center, the hideout, whatever you want to call it, the research center, then the hideout, and then you go to like the big Navy SEAL base kind of thing, and then that's where you fight Mishima, and then you also then obviously fight Makiko after that. But yeah, I don't, other than falling in the lava at the end, there was nothing notable that happened. The N64 version felt like really rushed at the end. The levels were small.
It seems to be the case. Go ahead.
No. So I played to Norway the first time, and then I remember messaging you guys and like, hey, I found out I can play in super high res expansion pack modes. And I went back to the beginning again and played it like that, thinking that maybe that was stopping me from like experiencing the game, i.e. finding the sword and tablet pieces or the coin to get on the rowboat from the crazy guy. And it turns out that had nothing to do with my experience. It was just the way that it was. Then I went back to Norway again and decided I didn't want to play through 3 and 4. So then I used the level select code to jump through the last episodes and beat the bosses. And then I called it a night and I felt good about it. So,
I was looking at some walkthroughs and just looking at the length of the levels, the later levels, they get a lot shorter.
Yeah.
So it does feel like they were, even the development staff, and based off the history you read too, they're kind of like, just fuck this. We need to finish this. Like, we need to wrap this up one way or another. So that tracks that the last levels are probably rushed too. Are you telling me there was a Terminator 2 moment at the end?
So like, once again, because I have different like cutscenes and no dialogue, after you beat Makiko, after beating Mishima, she like falls into is it a nuclear reactor? I believe is what you're by there during the fight. Some sort of lava reactor or something. And then honestly, it looks like Superfly falls in too. And then the game just kind of ends. But I tried to go back and watch it again and it looked exactly the same to me. It looks like he like tries to like grab her arm or help her from falling in, and then he falls in and it's like game over. Like, it's just, that's it.
What?
So, I mean, I could probably go back to YouTube and make sure I'm not missing something, because I was developing press A syndrome at that point. Like, oh my God, is this going to be another 45-minute, like, real in-engine voiceless cutscene? So, like, I'm hoping I missed something, but it certainly, like, doesn't feel like it.
That's amazing.
That is super, super weird.
I want that to be true for the PC version too. And I wish I made it to the end.
I mean, I can just roll to the end of the strategy guide and see if it has it in there.
Yeah.
But you're not missing a lot at the end if you didn't play it.
No.
Yeah. So the other thing, and you just mentioned it, and I had totally forgotten it, that I feel like I need to point out is that this game does not feel the need to explain like jack shit to you, like as far as whatever's happening, like in universe. Like, there's no narrative consistency whatsoever. Like, the fact that, I mean, listen, we're suspending disbelief already, right? Because, you know, you have a sword that allows you to time travel. Okay, fine. Up until that point, like the whole first act, I'm like, okay, I could believe this. I mean, I hate the fact that for some reason 80%, 90% of the enemies you fight in the first act are just robotic animals. You fight a lot of frogs and fucking dragonflies, which is a great introduction into the latest game by legend John Romero. But anyway, so I could believe that. I could believe the far future dystopia shit because it's set in like 2455 or something. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Yep.
And then you time travel to Greece and then fucking all bets are off, right? It's just like, oh yeah, also mythology is real. Fuck you. Like you got time travel. Yep. Also, you are going to talk to the ferryman. Yep. That one. You gotta get him a coin to cross the river, even though it's not actually the river Styx, which is what the mythology actually is. It's just, hey, wouldn't that be cool because Greece, and threw that in.
Yeah.
And then you have to kill Medusa. I'm just like, it's a video game, right? Okay, fine. But there's no consistency and there's no explanation. Like at the very least in the Norway section, they actually from a in-universe like perspective, as crazy as it still is, like they explain why you're fighting a bunch of fucking zombies. They're like, oh, it's a plague, but it's, you know, they turned them all into zombies and also dark magics. And you're like, okay, fine, I can get on board with that, I guess. At least you attempted to explain it. But Greece really threw me for a loop because I was just like, this just comes out of fucking nowhere. Like, you're not just fighting like the centurions and shit or like dudes on chariots. It's like, no, these are just mythological creatures. They exist. Here you go. Like, maybe that bothered me too much. I don't know.
Counter to that. It is extremely evident that John Romero is a little bit of a weeb. And I know. And he, like, when you see his influence that he wore on the sleeve to make this game, one of those games being Chrono Trigger. And you can imagine, like, if you've played Secret of Evermore, this game makes a lot more sense because it kind of does the same thing. In fact, you could say that this was a recreation of Secret of Evermore without the dog. It just have Superfly and Makiko.
You could say that. I don't think that maybe you shouldn't, but you could.
Terribly different,
I guess.
I think Secret of Evermore is a little bit more well developed there, but yeah. I don't.
I mean, it's also really obvious that like Hiro Miyamoto is clearly just a self-insert for John Romero, right? Like it's just him. Like he put himself in the game.
Are you saying Romero thought he was the next Miyamoto?
I mean, if you knew anything about these dudes at id and the egos that were flying around, I'm just saying that it's not outside the realm of possibility.
All right. Anything else we have to add about the plot here? I think we have adequately explained what's going on and our thoughts.
It just seems typical for them at this point, right? Like you and I were talking about this offline, where this just feels like Quake again, where it was just like, oh, here's a bunch of ideas that we thought were neat and we had to smash them all together because time. And I kind of feel like that's sort of what happened here. They were too ambitious for their britches, I think.
I agree. Mike, anything to add, or are we ready to move on to the gameplay?
Like on that ambition, like I thought of this game as like, I like to call it the war turtle effect. So this game is like the weird middle child of like the fun games that came before it. So like we talked about Half-Life and Quake and then Doom and things like Myst even, you know, like adventure games, because this had some fun exploration in like minutes of its gameplay. And then afterwards came things like BioShock and Destiny and Portal and all the things that those original games were inspired by. And this was kind of, you know, if you're going to meet a game when it came out and in its time and place, this is a very War Turtle game in the middle. It's not the cute starter Squirtle games that everybody loves, and it's not the cool Blastoise games of years later that are now, you know, decades-long franchises in BioShock and like Half-Life, Portal, Team Fortress, and things like Destiny, even Destiny 1 and 2 have been going on forever. It's just kind of the one-off. It's the stopgap between what we had and now what we have. And if you're okay with that, you might find some enjoyment here. But if you're not, then it's just the weird thing that you rush to skip to get to the good stuff, I guess.
It's the awkward middle child.
I'm going to kind of put a pin in that because that is going to apply to my final thoughts. in terms of what I think. Or else I would, because I don't want to give that away, because I don't want to expound on that. But I think like you have a very good point there, and I really do agree. And I will talk about that later. But yeah, let's head into the gameplay now. And if you weren't aware, Daikatana is a first-person shooter. So I hope we are all aware of that. Developed by Storm, of course, and published by Eidos, as we said. I'm gonna start this off and say the gameplay is not as bad as you've probably heard. Me and Shane have been talking about the sidekicks a lot. If you take the sidekicks out of the equation and you make it past the first chapter, it's not that bad of a game. It's a very adequate first-person shooter, I thought.
Sounds like one of those arguments that people make about like RPGs and shit, where they're just like, well, if you get past the first like 20 hours, it's really good.
John Romero thought he's making an RPG, so there you go.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. See, it was all part of the plan. That's what he did. But I honestly think like it's not as bad as like I've been told all this time. You listen to reviews and you like go at the retrospectives, and you're assuming that you're going into this game with it being completely broken and a total mess and just completely unplayable, which it isn't until it glitches out and you can't advance anymore. But until that happens, I know that it's not the most
until the game completely breaks, it's kind of all right.
Yes, exactly. Like the gameplay, like the shooting isn't that bad. Like the ion blaster sucks because if you miss, you can take some damage. But when you get into Greece and you get into the Middle Ages, the weapons are actually, there are some that I do not like, of course. But once you find those weapons that you do like, they're very complementary and the shooting feels good. Taking down enemies feels good. The level designs are hit or miss, mostly miss. And I'm sure we'll talk about that when we get to platforming and elevators and whatnot. But they're not like the worst. I have definitely played first-person shooters with worse level design too. And I can say that like I was led astray in terms of how dubious the quality was. I thought that like the gameplay was way above my expectations. I'll kick it over to Shane because he was on the PC, and we'll get back to Mike because he had a significantly different experience with the N64 from what we've heard. So Shane, what are your thoughts on that aspect of the PC game?
I mean, okay, I don't know if it's vastly better than I was led to believe, but I will say that it is better. Yes. I think you have to put it into the context, right, of the absolute sheer fucking hubris of John Romero just being like, yeah, this is gonna be the fucking best thing ever. It's gonna blow your fucking nuts off. And it's like a mediocre game at best, you know, and that was not what we were expecting from one of the dudes who brought us probably the most important FPS ever fucking made. Right. So at the time, it was a huge letdown. And it's funny because I came across a quote.
Talking about Thief, right? Thief was the most important first. I know you guys love Thief, right?
Yeah, Thief is great.
Right, Thief. That's what I was talking about. Yep.
So good. So amazing. Also published by Eidos.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I came across this quote like from that time. I don't remember who said it. I think it was one of the gaming magazines or something, but it is so 2000s and wildly offensive. But they said basically, we were expecting from John Romero something of genius, and in a way we got it because this game runs like Stephen Hawking. I was like, Jesus Christ. So, I mean, that's
wow.
Yeah. So that is the sentiment, right, that you were working with at the time. And is it unduly harsh? Probably. I mean, also keep in mind that we are, if you're not running the fan made patch, which I had to do, and I would recommend if you were even gonna consider diving into this thing, you were running version 1.02. So there was at least 2 semi-major patches, you know, that happened. So I can't really speak to what like release day Daikatana looked like, because I would have to imagine it was probably worse. But I'm reticent to agree with you, but at the same time, I kind of do, because I unironically was finding myself enjoying the game in parts. And I think if Mikiko and Superfly were not there, or if their AI wasn't absolute hot trash, then like it probably would have been okay. Like, I think I would have had more fun with it, because I got to several points, and Chris can vouch for this because he heard me saying it while I was playing, while he was on stream recently, that like most of what I was doing was not cool Doom ID software run and gun shit. It was, where the fuck is Superfly? Because I can't leave this zone until he gets close enough to me to like to go to the next area. And most of the time the answer is he's an idiot and he's stuck behind a door. Like I had to reload a save because he somehow got himself wedged in between an open door and the wall and refused to leave there. No amount of like hitting the commands for your companions to be like, hey, come here, come to me. Like, he did not give a single fuck. He was like, nah, this is my door now. This is where I live. And that was it.
Also, the doors hurt you.
Yeah, fucking of course they do. Yeah. Well, actually, everything does. Everything has like momentum and mass, which on some like technical level, I guess, is like, oh, that's kind of cool. But from a gameplay perspective, it's fucking awful. I got hurt by moving a fucking lever and standing too close to it. Like, just let that sink in for a second.
That tracks.
Was friendly fire on in the PC version? Like, if they got stuck, could you blast them with like the shot cycler or anything like that to blow them out of the way?
Well, that would have been great if I was in the area that had the shot cycler.
See, I didn't have that problem on N64 because I was allowed to take all my weapons with me. So.
Yo, what the fuck? We played the wrong version of this game, Chris.
Yeah. Well, you also said that you didn't have sidekicks running around with you. So that must have been a wildly different.
It was.
Yeah, no, they take our weapons.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, no, after every act, it's a whole new set of weapons every time.
No, it was pretty much from, what is that, Act 3? When do you get the hammer? Middle of Act 3?
Yeah, that was
Act 2. Act 2.
Is it 2? Yeah, it was like Fallout Super Sludge Simulator for me for the rest of the game. I didn't use much other than the hammer all the way through the end of the game.
Well, you don't even get the Daikatana.
No.
You were saying, like, you don't get to use that.
Well, you use it to...
Wait, so you don't get it at all?
End the game. You get it. Like, you get it at the end of Act 1, but it just goes, like, it doesn't go in your inventory. It's just a plot beat. It's like, oh, we got it now. Awesome. And then you don't see it again until you swing it at Mishima at the end of the game to beat him. Then that's it.
Why? That's like the whole thing. That's the game's whole thing.
I was playing Donkey Kong, dude. Like, I had a hammer. It was great. Smashing stuff. But
oh, man.
Yeah, that's... but like Shane was saying, yeah, like the point is to... I mean, if you want to, you don't have to. And I didn't because melee is not fun. But it's to level up your sword. It's to level up the Daikatana. So it becomes a level 5 weapon. And then you can just, in theory, mow down people with melee attacks.
Oh, nice. How'd that go?
Didn't quite work out that way for me.
Well, but that's the thing, though, is like it's a binary choice, which sucks. Okay. This is the other thing that really irks me about this, at least in the PC version, right? Once you get the Daikatana, and I don't know, and to be fair, I don't know because I don't have the instruction booklet, whatever. So I don't know if they're very clear about this in there. I would hope that they are, but you basically have to make a choice at that moment. Am I going to focus on doing nothing but using the Daikatana for the rest of the game outside of like some edge case scenarios where you have ranged enemies that you just can't get to? Or am I just going to carry it around and it's a really cool decoration piece and I'm never going to use it? Because when you level up, because yes, you gain experience and level up in this game, you have to either you have to be using any weapon other than the Daikatana, and you yourself will gain XP in order to level your attributes. If you're using the Daikatana, it gains all of the XP and you don't. So there's this like weird balancing act of like, okay, so I guess I'll use some weapons here because I need to level myself up so that I like don't die maybe. But also I want to make sure the Daikatana is leveled up as much as possible. And it just, from a gameplay perspective, it just feels real bad. And you also find out that unless you're stupid or crazy and you're playing on like the hardest difficulty, and I don't know why you do that to yourself, but at least on the easiest difficulty, which is what I played on, you don't really need vitality leveled so much because health replenishment is fairly plentiful anyway. And so I realized that the best method, if you're going to use the Daikatana, is really just to pump your points into attack, because that makes your attacks faster. And that does affect the Daikatana's swing rate. So you just start fucking Ginsu blading people, which is admittedly kind of cool. However, the power stat, which affects damage, does not affect the Daikatana at all. That is strictly for other weapons. So it's like this really weird choice that you have to pigeonhole yourself into one way or the other. And it just, as a player, it just doesn't feel great.
Now, what was the kind of consequence for that on the N64 version? Because I know you have levels.
Yep.
You didn't have to concern yourself with the levels for the Daikatana at all, right?
Nope, it was just character level. Worked the same way. Found the power up. You could find like a vitality boost, and you could kill enemies to level up. But it just added, like, it just picked the stat in order and just added a level every time you killed enough guys or whatever. Like, the game was significantly harder. So when I skipped ahead, when I used the level select to go to the end, the game was way harder without having your attack and your vitality and stuff, like, at least above 3, which was like bare minimum for doing the bosses in Norway. But yeah, no leveling up the Daikatana at all. No save gems. It just saved after every chapter.
Oh my God, save gems.
Well, wait, hold on. That's a whole other thing. Before you get to that, so you're saying that in the N64 version, when you level, it just like sequentially levels your stats for it. You don't get to pick?
Yeah. Yeah, it just gives you you get 1 in the power, then 1 in the vitality, and then, down the row, and then it just pops back up to the top. So you have like 2 in everything, then 3 in everything. At least that's the way it seemed on mine. It certainly didn't seem like killing enemies was raising my power stat or anything like that, or that running and jumping was raising agility. It was just kill a guy, get experience points, get another point in the next stat, move on to the next thing.
Wow.
At least you get a choice in the PC version. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, even then, I really, really did not like the fact that I had to choose between like exclusively leveling the sword or leveling the character. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll get on my little sidekick rant here and the AI, because I'll get into that. I'll be as quick as possible with that. They hate you. I don't think there's any better way to put that. Like they actively hate you. And that starts at the beginning. I didn't know you have to ask them to pick up a weapon. You have to force them to pick something up. And then you have to hope that you pick the right weapon, because if you pick the wrong weapon, they will shoot you with it. And it does cause damage. Apparently you can turn off friendly fire. I don't know if that's a 1.3 thing or not. But yeah, I remember constantly, like, I got to Greece, and all of a sudden I gave Mikiko a weapon called the Daedalus Blade, which is really cool.
Yeah,
I love that weapon. I use that almost exclusively the entire time in Greece. It's like a boomerang, and it homes back to you, and you can have up to 10 at once or something like that. It's a really cool weapon. And I kept giving her that, and I was having nothing but a good time. Like, she was killing all the enemies with me. She was taking care of stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm loving this. Then I made the mistake of giving her a weapon called the Venomous. Like, it shoots all these balls all over the place, and it poisons enemies or poisons you. And the reason how I found out it poisoned me is because I'd line up at an enemy and she would get right behind me and start shooting me with it. I guess that's foreshadowing for the end of the game of her being a villain. That's the only assumption I could see of why she would do that. But of course, there's the other side of it where you would line up with an enemy and you'd start shooting it, and then she would just jump right in front of you. And now you're shooting her instead of the enemy, and she'd be like, "Oh, why you shoot me?" And she would do that. And
God,
it's like that. I'm sorry. But like, and then they like, you get yelled at, and like, oh, it's so frustrating. And then the same thing with Superfly. And this is my core example for that. And this is also in chapter 3, where there was a platform that you had to jump across on these rocks that lined it up and then throw a switch for Superfly to cross. And I didn't know the switch was there, so I went ahead and defeated all the enemies. I'm like, okay, where Superfly was, and you following me? Do I have to do something? It's like, oh, there's a switch. So I ran back, and before I hit the switch, he jumped into the lava pit. He just jumped right in and killed himself. And so I had to...
Right.
Also foreshadowing. Yeah. And so I think I had to reload the game 10 times before I could get there and order him to stay put so I could flip the switch before he crossed over. Like, it is, or they'll get caught in a door. You'll go through a door and you'll be like, follow me. And they'll get in this repeating animation where the door opens and the door closes and the door opens and the door closes. And you're like pressing F. That's the command function, like, follow me, come on, follow me. And they're like, yeah, I'll be right there. And then the door closes. And you like, I've literally had to go into the room. And I think it was because I ordered them to collect an item they couldn't reach. So their command prompt was, I got to get that item and everything else you tell me is going to be overruled. So I had to collect the item myself in order for the command to get overruled, and he would follow me because he would open the door and run back to the item. And they're like, no, we're going this way. Follow me. He's like, okay. And then he'd run back to the item. Like, what is this? This is the patched version. They are a menace. They are a nuisance. They hate you. They're not on your side. They're one of the enemies. They are artificial difficulty. And Mike, I am so envious of that feature in the N64 version. I wish I had the same sidekick party member experience that you did.
I agree with you, but I had my own things, I guess. So you talked about that you didn't like the ion blaster. That was the most reliable weapon on the Nintendo 64 version because there was no mappable controls. So my choices for controls were inverted or standard, and then inverted or standard where the reticle jumped back to the middle of the screen. And that's it. So I had to use standard, so joystick, C buttons to move, and then where it didn't jump back to the... So I needed weapons that were like pinpoint accurate, and the ion blaster was actually the most accurate all the way through the first... Well, up until you get the Daikatana, and then up until you get the hammer, which I used after that. But
yeah.
So it was pretty much pre-lining up all of my shots, like remembering where like the turrets were, or just running by enemies. The first level especially, like I just ran by the robo frogs or whatever, and then the flying whatever yellow things that come flying through the caves, and even in Act 2 with the flying like Medusa looking things, the winged whatever they were, you just ran by them. Because shooting things up in the air with the N64 controller when you're trying to like strafe and aim and shoot was not fun, is the best way to put it. So like envious of your keyboard and mouse for a first person shooter from the early 2000s, late 90s, because it was not built for the N64 controller. And then there was no button index either. So episode 1, stage 1, I ran into a door that clearly I had to duck under, and there's no duck button and no index to tell me what the duck button is. So I had to consult the wonderful internet to tell me that I had to use the A button, which was the function button on the N64. It did everything. It pressed the switches. It moved the cutscenes. So I had to hold the function button, and then I had to jump. And holding the function button and jumping made your character duck.
Oh,
but
my
that
God.
took me a solid 10 minutes before I gave up and went to find how to duck on the N64. So they made no attempt. They may have ported this game to a different system, but they made no attempt to have any sort of accessibility options or any quality of life whatsoever, other than they didn't have space on the cart to include your companions.
Oh, God. All right. Did we miss anything with gameplay? I'm glad you brought up the frogs.
You didn't like the frogs?
And I know we already brought up the rats. I don't hate the frogs, but it's one of those things. You're here to get this hardcore badass first-person shooter, and your primary enemy in the first level is a frog.
Don't forget the dragonflies.
You can die by frog and dragonfly.
Yes. Yep.
Ooh,
Yep.
One other thing I wanted to ask you guys about, specifically about gameplay. So when you're finding we were talking about the tablet pieces. So there was 5 of those and you had to run around. Did you guys have to, so in my game, there was this big archway and I struggled for like 30 minutes to find the 5th tablet piece. And under this archway was a table. At that point, I was just hammering everything and blowing up everything and I found out that there's just a table under that archway and you had to break the table and the piece of the tablet was in the table. Mind you, the piece of this tablet did not fit in the model of the table that I blew up. Like they're completely different architecture.
Of course. Of
and
course.
No point in the game up till that point did I have to break an item to find plot item or piece. Like there was no breakable environments up until that point. So Daikatana was flipping the script on me, not only in like controls and stuff, but also in like gameplay functionality. There is no way unless you randomly blew up that because the table is just a table. And unless you accidentally blew it up, there is no way you would find the 5th piece of the tablet and be able to move on from that. Did you guys have like destructible environments up till that point, or was that in the PC version?
Yes. There were destructible items in the environment and stuff like that. You could blow up like wheelbarrows, for example, and then in the Middle Ages, barrels and all sorts of things you could destroy. However, I don't remember a plot item being in a destructible piece of the environment.
Yeah, that wasn't in the PC version.
Perfect.
The one thing that did piss me off was one of the tablets that you're talking about, because it was in the room, and I don't know if you had this room, Shane, I know you did, where there's this big spider pool. If you like, one of the tablets is in the pool. But I remember when I went to the pool, I tried jumping in it because I realized this game likes to hide secrets. This game loves its secrets. They're not all valuable, but some of them are, where you find secret passageways and whatnot. But this game loves to hide its secrets underwater. And so I was like, let me see if there's any secrets here in this stupid spider pool. And as soon as I jumped in it, my character kept on jumping out of it. Like it was too shallow to do anything with. So I was like, there's nothing in here. This just looks like a health vase. And then when I started doing it, a bunch of spiders came down, like little spiders came down from the ceiling, and I had to kill those. I was like, okay, there's nothing here. So I was wandering all over. I made it to the end. I found 4 pieces. I'm like, where is this 5th tablet? And then I realized, no, it's in that pool. The pool it kept telling me not to dive into. It kept like bouncing me out of it. Like it's in the bottom of that, and it wouldn't let me grab it. That was my problem with the tablet. Yeah, the game is just,
well, okay.
The water physics are fun.
It's honestly, it's not. I don't even think it's that. I mean, I think it's a compound issue. Part of it is that entering and exiting water is janky as shit. And the other part of it is that your like the hit detection and like your hitbox and environmental like detection is also real jank. And so those two things put together make it sometimes really hard to get into some of those areas. And I have one similar to that, but it wasn't that. I think by accident managed to get through that without having to backtrack to find any of those Aegis tablets. I just found them all, but
that level takes forever, by the way.
It does. It goes on way too long. But like both of you are hitting on something that I was actually talking with Chris about last night at the time of this recording, which is that this game is clearly developed as though it expects you to already be like a Doom veteran, in that it puts plot critical things in places that any other logically sane game would only put secret, like optional things. And it's incredibly frustrating because I think what they thought was they were being really fucking cute and like clever, being like, oh, well, you remember playing Doom and you shot this random wall and then you found a thing. Like, well, I mean, we got to up the ante now because people know that they could do that. So now we got to put our actual like items that you need to progress the game in the most esoteric, dumb shit places in our levels. And it's totally unnecessary. Like I got stuck in Norway because I was looking for yet another collectathon MacGuffin bullshit thing with like the 7 or 9 pieces. I think it was actually 9, but anyway, pieces of the sword. And also the rune keys that you needed the 3 in order to open that door to even continue forward. Right. One of those rune keys was at the bottom of a frozen well that you would have no idea, to Mike's point, you'd have no idea that you should break that ice and that there's water underneath it that you could swim down. Nothing up until this point communicated that like that could be a thing that could happen. Like there was no indicator.
And you get hurt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And because again, they're trying to go for realism in their fucking time traveling ninja sword story that like, yeah, it's real cold, man. So like if you're in cold freezing water, then I mean, you're going to take damage, obviously, because that's also a real fun mechanic. Like, so let's put, it's like the equivalent of like if you were playing Doom and they put the red key card in a pool of lava. That is what this is. That's the design that they went with here.
I love it. It's great.
Hey,
right?
one other thing.
It's fantastic.
For Norway, I just so I can maybe sleep tonight, which is, it's not seeming like I'm going to at this moment. But so you're in the church at the beginning, and there's that big. Did you guys have the puzzle with like the altar instrument thing where you had to like you had to hit the notes
the
on
organ?
the thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
okay,
yep.
So there's a cutscene before that where you talk to the whoever the guy is, the Templar looking whatever guy, the guy that's just standing there. Did he tell you guys?
Yeah, the ancient Norway guy that speaks English. Yes, go on.
Yeah. Did he give you any hints on what notes to play?
Oh wait, you had an actual
You had to choose notes?
No, we didn't have to do that.
Oh, I had to play like each of the bar bell looking things. Like I had to play notes to open the door to move on through that. And I thought, oh, certainly I accidentally skipped another cutscene and this guy's going to so I went back, reloaded my save. He does not, I have no idea where the information is in the N64 version on what notes to play to open that door to move forward there. So once again, after a half hour of struggle, I had to just go find it in the internet, in the wonderful, vast internet.
That is crazy that they would. So what you're saying is they cut just a metric ton of content from this game for the N64 version, but then felt compelled to put in a completely nonsensical puzzle.
Yes. But like,
great.
They have to,
Love
you think
that.
they have to tie up loose ends, correct? Like you have to at least diegetically, you have to be able to like figure out a puzzle, right? Like, unless it's in the manual, maybe it's one of those sweet 90s things where the notes are like written in the manual and you have to like turn to page 16 and play the song.
Well, maybe they got the idea from the Final Fantasy IX strategy guide.
An online strategy guide?
Yeah. Go to play online. It'll tell you what you need to do.
No, so for the PC version, it was literally just walk up and press the button.
Yeah. That was the reason why I didn't play all the way through the second time and level skipped. I'm like, I couldn't remember what website I found the solution to that puzzle in, because the N64 version doesn't really have a whole lot of stuff online. Everything, like even the strategy guide I have is for the PC version, which was not helpful at all. So I was like, oh, now I have to go through my search history to find no, I'm not going to do that. We're going to skip this level. We're going to skip ahead. And that's how I ended up going to the end of the game.
I think that's funny. I was saying I'm going to go through my search history. You know what? No, that's not.
It's all Daikatana.
That's probably better for everybody.
It's all big, long swords. And Asian women.
Makiko Rule 34.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, so here's the thing, though, with that specific thing for the PC, it's still completely nonsensical, because even though like you just have to walk up to the organ and just press the use button to open up the trap door to get where you need to go, nothing tells you that. There is nothing directing you towards like, oh, you need to interact with this, which actually that brings me to something that I meant to talk about and I had forgotten until just now, that interactable things in the environment they're so like just random. Like there's so many levels of bad game design in this game. It fucking blows my mind. Like one of the things, right, that most well-designed games will do is if there are things in the environment that you can interact with and they want you to know that will be subtly communicated in some way, whether it's like a slight visual difference or something that's literally pointing you towards like, hey, these are things you can use, like something. This game does not do that. The things that you have to, again, interact with to actually progress in the game, period, are just the same as just random dumb window dressing bullshit. Like in Act 1, there's a number of times where you have to interact with like a terminal and like a keyboard or something in order to open a door or, you know, disengage a security thing or whatever. And they look identical to terminals and keyboards that are just there for show. And there's nothing that tells you that they're any different. It's so poorly designed.
Yes. Yeah, level designs are bad. I mean, I wouldn't say they're bad. I think they're hit or miss. I said that at the top of the gameplay section. I that's where I agree with you. I think when they are bad, they are bad. But
well, I don't mean level design.
I don't think they're universally bad.
I'm talking about just like game design, like the theories of game design at like a high level were not followed whatsoever. Like I'm not talking about like, oh, the layout of this level is bad because it's confusing, although that is also a thing. But no, I just mean in general, like I'm saying, like these things that like even at this point in time, they probably should have known or at least had some idea, right, that these were things that you should probably do. And having interactable objects that are required to even progress at all look identical to things that are just there for show is just bad design.
No, you're 100% right there. I agree with that. And this game does that way too often. But speaking of how things look, are we ready to talk graphics?
Well, also using the Daikatana is actually kind of fun. There you go. I capped it off.
It is.
Because I went that route.
Go. See, something positive.
I decided to go that route.
Positive.
Yeah, I went with the let's only level the sword, and I leveled my speed, and that was it. And it actually becomes like usable because if you don't level your speed, you swing it so slow. It's actually aggravating. But once you level up to at least like level 3 speed, then it gets fun. So there is that. I did like chopping up dudes with the Daikatana. So
just
got that
rub
going
it in my
for it.
rub it in my face a little more then.
Hey man, I gotta balance out the fact that like apparently almost everything else is better in your version. Okay.
Yeah, well, you can't like shoot anything in the air, but you do get hammer time for the entire game. So there's that. Okay, let's get into the graphics. And Mike, I do want to start with you here because N64, I understand that's a little bit of a different beast than what PC was going through. How did the N64's graphical presentation compare to like other N64 games of the time? I guess Perfect Dark was out right before this, so that would be a good barometer. How does it perform? It
performs fine. I didn't have any frame rate hiccups or anything, but it didn't look very great. I really I think I struggle to think of a first person shooter that looked worse. Maybe Hexen. No, even Hexen looked pretty good on the N64 compared to this. It was really, really bland and flat, especially the beginning. Like we talked about how boring the beginning levels were. Like the swamp was bad. The like ice cave facility thing, that was bad. Even the first part of Act 2, where you're jumping around in all the like brown pieces of hill and whatever, are all the exact same color and texture on the N64. In fact, the coin was also a problem because there was no difference between the water that you could swim with flying quotations, the water you could swim in and the water you had to like walk, the path you had to walk around to get to the coin on the N64 there was no path. It just looked like more water. So you just had to stumble on that. So there was not a lot of like texture difference or really a whole lot of interesting stuff to look at, but it played really well. Like I said, the frame rate was good. It was responsive. Like the game wanted you to enjoy it, I think. But I mean, Perfect Dark blows this away. Even GoldenEye probably looks about the same, but like apples to oranges, because there's never like 45 enemies on the screen in Daikatana. Like at very most you get like, you know, a couple soldiers or, you know, a pile of spiders or whatever, but not 8 Russian soldiers firing AKs at you to slow the frame rate down. So I guess I didn't play. Did you guys play any multiplayer? Did you fire that up at all?
No.
Oh, no.
Okay, well, I should have done that, because I'm curious how that played with 4 people, because that's a thing the Nintendo 64 likes to do, is play single player good and then play multiplayer not good on the first person shooter games. Because,
Yeah, that's true.
but yeah, it looked fine.
It struggled.
It was just
It
fine.
struggled.
It looked fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So that was kind of the mentality I was going to have coming into this initially when playing this. On the PC version, of course, they upped the resolution, put it in full screen so it could look the sharpest it possibly could. I didn't have any mods on it, so I was looking. I did play the GOG version, so I don't know if that has any modifications or whatever it has. Who knows with PC? It's so weird. It's like a nebulous, like asterisks, caveats, rabbit holes. That's all PC gaming is to me when it comes to like presentation, really, or whatever. There's so many different ways you could say, oh, but did you do this? No, I didn't. I just played whatever's on GOG. Initially, yeah, I was going to say this game is okay. It's a 2000 game. Doesn't really bother me. The character models look like pruned up Gears of War rejects. But, you know, I guess it could look a little worse. You know, this is character models of its time. And then I looked up what year Clive Barker's Undying came out, which was less than a year after this one came out, and that game absolutely obliterates Daikatana in terms of its graphical presentation. It's not a competition at that point. I haven't seen Deus Ex, but I've seen some screenshots. I haven't played Deus Ex, so, you know, gaming sin here. But everything from that looks better than this game that came out in the same year. So when I look at a game like Daikatana, it looks like a game that spent a lot of time in arrested development, because this is supposed to be a 1997, 1998 game. And so I think a lot of those assets were designed and created then, and then so much high turnover rate. Like it looks like a game that probably should have come out in 1998. And I mean, I could even say that in terms of the story. It feels like it knew Half-Life came out and was compensating for it in a lot of ways. And I think if this game did come out in 1998, like graphically and performance wise, it would have been received a hell of a lot better. But it didn't. It came out in 2000. And unfortunately, it's going to get compared to 2000 games, which I think is fair. But with that being said, like today, the environments, I think you brought up a good point about the environments, because even in the PC version, they don't look bad, but they look very generic. There's a sense of emptiness that comes along with a lot of those environments, especially when you get into chapters 2 and chapter 3. Chapter 1 just feels too busy for the sake of being busy. And it feels like there's just a bunch of crap that's not very detailed and is a lot of recycled assets throughout every single level. That doesn't really give it a feeling of being very alive or well crafted. It just feels, it almost feels like a homebrew game from like 15 years ago. Like someone was just creating their own little first person shooter with a very limited budget. That's the impression I got from it. So yeah, it feels extraordinarily basic and it could have been better, but I don't find it so offensive to the point today that it bothers me. But I do realize I think you said bland, and I think bland is the best word to assign to how I felt about the graphical presentation in this, and especially disappointing for the year it came out. I would have been, if I was a PC gamer and like first person shooters, if of course, I would have been very upset by the way this game had looked at that time. But today I don't think it bothers me as much, just because, you know, the way I approach games now and with the retrospective and appreciation, all that. But yeah, it would not have been it would have been crap then. Shane?
Well, yeah. And I mean, you're talking, granted, it would have been given a little bit more leniency, I guess, if it had released on schedule in like 97 or 98 for sure. But I mean, let's keep in mind that the original Half-Life came out in 1998. So, I mean, it's like,
yeah,
even then you'd be drawing comparisons to Half-Life, and frankly, there's no comparison. There just isn't.
No.
But you're right, though. Like, this is a consequence of development hell. Even though they moved to the Quake 2 engine, the assets, I would have to imagine, probably were like, well, we don't have time to like redo all the textures and all that shit, so let's just use what we got and let's move on and do what we can with it. And yeah, I think it shows. I mean, granted, like the version that I played was the fan patched version, so it was 1.3, and I think with that, I think that did introduce like some like higher res textures. It certainly introduces the ability to play it at better resolutions, that's for sure. So that was nice. But even then, it's just, yeah, I think bland is the right term. But here's the thing, right, is I would only apply that generally to the first act, because again, not even just from like I guess we'll say narrative, but also from like a gameplay perspective, but also from a presentational point of view. Act 2 in Greece is quite literally a breath of fresh air. Like, it is such a stark contrast to the entirety of the mostly dingy gray and brown of this like dystopia future Tokyo or whatever, which also you'd think like Blade Runner had been out forever at that point. Like, could we not have had like more cool neon shit? But anyway, I digress. But like that just was a slog through just a whole bunch of grays, and it was really just very boring just visually. And then when you get dropped into ancient Greece and suddenly there's all this bright sky and these like very vibrant colors on these temples and all, and I'm like, hell yeah, all right, like this is, I like this, like this is visually interesting. Yeah, like that's great. Like I physically felt the momentum shift like as soon as I hit Greece in this game. And so I don't think it's like across the board just very blah. I think it definitely has its moments. I wasn't a giant fan of the Norway sections. I mean, it was all right. It was all right. Like it did what it was trying to do, I guess. But again, you chose an incredibly bland backdrop. You're in medieval Norway in the middle of winter, so you're just gonna again have a bunch of white and brown and gray. But okay, so yeah, I don't know. The graphics are fine. They're nothing to write home about. I mean, if you were to take like any character model from this and just stand it side by side with probably any character model from the original Half-Life, I think you'd see a pretty stark contrast. And can we talk just for a second, because this really bothered me, what the fuck is with the outfits? Like, why are the three main characters dressed like they're like Unreal Tournament rejects? Like, what?
Because they probably are.
Because the outfits have to translate over 3,000 years. They have to be readable in all time and space.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess, like, I just I don't get it. Like, I don't know why all three of them are dressed in like this weird armor. Like, where did they even get it? Like, I was very confused.
The future.
Act 4.
Yeah, sure. Except like when you fucking see, it's like when you first meet a hero, I mean, he's just he's like in a gi or something, but still, like, at least he's in like semi-normal clothes. Like, the thing is, I think what really bothers me is that the real answer here is because edgy. I think that's the actual answer, because John Romero.
Yes.
And because edgy. I think that's the real reason.
I mean, we have this GIF of John Romero in our chat right now that's been going over and over. And I mean, that kind of is quintessentially the look of the characters as well. Like, he's got what does he got going on here? His glasses and like a sweater. Looks like he's holding either an umbrella or a sword. Like that's
Why not both?
yeah. Like he's feeling himself.
Wait, that's
John Romero, isn't it?
That's John Romero?
Yeah. It's the same. I put one above too. That said I don't want to play it. That's also John Romero.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
No way.
I mean, he looks a lot different than he did in like 1991.
Considerably so. Okay.
Time comes for us all, Chris.
Especially in Daikatana.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, there we go. We tied it back.
Hey. Woo. All right. Let's move on to the audio presentation here. I think this is the time when we get to talk about the voice acting. I'm going to start because I don't think there's going to be... You're not going to be able to talk about voice acting, Mike. So let's start off with you again. How was the audio presentation on the Nintendo 64?
I was allowed 4 songs for this game, 1 per time period.
Oh.
So that was amazing.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Ouch. Well, how were the songs?
I mean, I could probably at this point, I could just audibly perform them all for you one at a time if you'd like, based on how they were beat into my skull.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to do it either, but I could. And, it was fine. Like the sound effects were okay. The music was nothing to write home about, and it was the same thing over and over again. Most of the tracks were like 2 minutes long, and then just a loop. And like I said, it was like all of each time period was a single song. So until you moved on to Norway, and you didn't get a new track. That was your reward for continuing to play the game, was you get to hear the next song that Daikatana and John Romero have waiting for you.
Oh my God. I just looked that up too. And the OST for the N64, like not only is it just one song per like area, the song, like the track for Greece is 1 minute and 5 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
No. You really could play that for us.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Oh God, no.
And I didn't have anybody to talk to. I was just left to my own devices in my 1 minute and 5 second song. I have become very familiar with Daikatana at this point.
Okay.
I feel I'm seasoned in the audio of Daikatana.
Oh. Well, if you have a therapist, send the bill to John Romero, because that can cause some issues, I can imagine. Shane, let's get into the PC version. We have a few more audio tracks and the voice acting. I'm just going to let you go because it sounded like you wanted to get into this.
I mean, man, it's just so like, this is something that clearly has just not like aged well at all. Just at all. Mm-hmm. And I have to imagine that part of it is this feels very like, B action movie inspired, like the entire game, which is fine. Like I can dig a good like schlocky, B movie, but like some of that carried with it maybe some less than like maybe appropriate things. Like both of your sidekicks are just racial caricatures. Let's just be honest. That's what they are. And I mean, I don't know.
Superfly is a very black guy. And Mikiko is a very Asian woman.
I feel like I missed a lot of the racism on my version though. So like unless I was giving them very distinct voices from 90s pop media.
You were just choosing to read it that way.
Yeah, they all sounded the same in my head.
Read it as if you're watching a South Park episode and you get the general impression.
Understood.
Yeah,
I will
just
have to
pretend
play
you're
it
the
again.
shitty walk guy when you're reading Makiko's lines.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, yeah, dude, I'll be honest. I don't know what else to say about that in particular. It's the voice acting generally is just not, that stuff aside, it's generally like maybe mediocre at best. Like, I guess Hero's kind of okay if you're really into that stereotypical gravelly white guy voice. Then, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, it sounds like David Hayter.
Yeah, exactly. I think the best part is probably the things that they say when you die. That's really entertaining.
That's hilarious.
I'll let you take that one.
Oh my God. I just remember the first time I died, and then Superfly, I just hear him go, "Oh no, hero! What are we gonna do? He was smashed into little bits." I'm like, oh, he has different ones. There's a multitude of like silly ass death exclamations. I understand that the voice acting is a little racist. Okay.
Sure.
I will completely admit that it is. I also unironically love it because it is dumb. It is incredibly dumb. And I like dumb late 90s, early 2000s things because I am a child of that time. I can put myself in that time period and understand that we all had different reactions then. And it's not all of these are super racist reaction. I mean, it's again, this could not be. I'm not saying it could not be made today, but it probably would not be made today at the same level as a high developer would. And if it was released, it would not be. These things would not be accepted in the same way they were back then. Understand all that. But it is so fucking hilarious. I think it is hilarious just because of some of the absurdity to it. And I love absurd humor. Like if it's just like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, how did this happen? And that's why, like, you're not going to see this much anymore. And I kind of, that's why it's complicated. But yeah, those death animations are funny. But to address that, yeah, I mean, I don't even want to repeat it. I'm done like trying to give examples. I already did one before. I'm already in trouble. So I'm going to leave it alone. But yes, that is something that is in here. Superfly is super black. Mikiko is super Asian. And the game really wants you to know that in every single aspect. If you have a stomach for that, and I understand a lot of people don't. Okay. Don't go back to it. You will say it's problematic. You will say it bothers you. I understand that. I'm not saying that that's an issue. I'm just saying that exists. But I mean, this was something that happened in the early 2000s. If you can get past that, you'll probably find some humor in it just because it's so ridiculous. And I don't think it was I don't think they were trying to be ridiculous back then. So like, it's even more absurd now that someone would do it this way. So I was laughing most of the time because I was like, I cannot believe this is the way this is. Like,
how was Hero's voice?
Yeah,
was Hero Asian too, or did they whitewash him for this?
Oh no, he's incredibly
that's the funny
white.
thing. No, he's whitewashed. He is Snake.
Oh, cool.
Oh, we gotta go get
we were gonna talk about it.
We gotta go get the Daikatana. He is not David Hayter, by the way. I had to look up the voice actor because he sounded so similar to him.
No, this is why I said earlier that I was drawing comparisons to like if Steven Seagal was actually jacked, because like that's basically what this dude is.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I had to back up, and you're right. He is supposed to be just as Asian as Mikiko, but he is straight white boy.
Yeah, Hiro Miyamoto. Yeah,
Hiro Miyamoto, Metal Gear. Yeah, I mean, Daikatana.
Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai.
But he, like in that, at least he was still like not Asian. Tom Cruise was very white.
Well, maybe that was just the inspiration for this.
And maybe it was.
What about Mishima? Is he like classically Asian sounding, or do you not get voice for him?
I didn't make it that far. I know that Ibihara was in the beginning of the game.
He's like very much just straight up like whatever comes to your mind when I say old Asian man is exactly what he is.
All right, cool. I'm slowly creating this game in my head, because it's not the one I played.
I'm sure whatever you're creating is probably better.
Superfly is Chef. Mikiko is Shidiwak.
It's just all South Park.
Oh, yeah. Understood.
It's all South Park. I don't know. I have my 2000s sensibility hat on here, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can understand why people wouldn't like it.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't entertaining. Like,
yeah, it's very entertaining.
I was entertained. I'm just saying that like it probably aged incredibly poorly.
No, not probably. It did. It hasn't. Like I said, like there's no major developer that would do anything like this today unless they're trying to be controversial. Which fair. I mean, John Romero tried. It doesn't feel like this game is trying to be controversial, though.
No, I don't think so.
If that makes sense. Even though John Romero loved being controversial.
Sure.
From what I understand.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't feel like this was that much of an effort. All right.
So I suppose on the sound front, right? We should probably talk about the music and sound design and such. I'll go ahead and kick that off.
Music's forgettable.
By saying, generally the it's fine. I guess I will give a special shout out to one track that's earlier in the game, as I found out, which now this makes sense, that according to the OST, the track is called Slow Doom, because that's what it is. It's a song from Doom, but slowed down. So I picked up on that one when I was playing through that level. So that's a kind of a cute little nod, I guess. The one that I actually did like, that I think is actually kind of obscure-ish, that like, I don't know how many people would pick up on it. So, you know, the chests that you open in the Norway levels?
Yeah.
Do you know they make a sound when you open them?
Yes.
That is the sound from opening a chest in Gauntlet.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I recognized it as soon as it happened. It's the same sound effect from like Gauntlet Legends when you open up a chest and there's an item inside. It's the same sound. So that was kind of a cool little nod.
Oh, okay. I wonder if they got permission for that. Or they just lifted it.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. I also think the weapons sounds weren't bad. I thought the weapon sounds were good, except when your dataless disc gets caught in a infinite loop of bouncing off a corner.
Yeah, throw it and then like immediately walk behind like a door or a column or something, and it's just doing this forever. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. But I thought the weapons sounded fine. I liked the way that they sounded. I thought they were good, which is important in a shooter. Again, like there are qualities about this game that I think are understated because like people like the dogpile.
Well, I mean, there's some things that you would, I mean, not that there's a precedence here with the quality of most of the other things that we were just talking about, but I mean, you would kind of expect that the people that put together a game like Doom, which still to this day has fantastic sound design, you'd think that at least some of that would carry over.
Yeah, the music fell off quite a bit, I would say. It provided inspiration.
They stopped getting inspired by heavy metal tracks and they tried to be all like real and atmospheric and shit.
Yeah, well, can't win them all.
Nope.
Okay. So I think that wraps up the main portion of our review here before we provide our thoughts on whether or not this game holds up today. But before we do, we're going to get into our Patreon pontifications. What are those? Well, if you want to provide your thoughts to be read here on our episode, you can just go into our Discord and let us know what you think of the upcoming game is. You can also find that on, obviously, our Patreon, which you can join for as little as $1 a month. We are going to get into our Patreon pontifications now. All right, leading us off is Lethco from the Afterglow podcast. By the way, I'll be on the Afterglow podcast soon talking about Final Fantasy V. Keep your ears peeled for that. And Lethco says, I remember the hype way more than the actual game. I was a PC gamer even way back then, and my mag of choice was PC XL. Each issue the year leading up to Daikatana had multiple ads for it, and many people were claiming it was going to be the next Doom and Quake Killer even before it came out. Then upon release, we got an average FPS for the time. These days, the N64 port is discussed more for how bad it was, but the PC version was just an average game that quickly got lost in the glut of FPS releases in that era. And by 2001, it would be found in bargain bins among other games like Kiss the Nightmare Child. That sounds, Kiss the Nightmare Child sounds awful. I don't even want to look it up. In its era, Daikatana fell to Quake 3 and Tribes 2, and was even beat out by Soldier of Fortune and Star Trek Elite Force. A lot of this was due to behind-the-scenes drama at Ion Storm. Thankfully, Ion Storm also put out Deus Ex during the same time frame, which was an awesome FPS, and the game they should have been pushing instead of Daikatana. Sorry, that was long-winded, but this game came out during one of my favorite eras in PC gaming. And thank you, Lethco. Don't worry about it being long-winded. Great comment.
All right. Next up, we have the one, the only Soha, who says, I haven't played the game myself, but I suppose that Daikatana shows us that Doom and Quake were a team effort, not just the marvelous ideas of one designer. Don't get me wrong, Romero has great ideas, but he was merely a part of all of the things that went right in id back in the 90s. This was the fame getting to his head, and perhaps it being mediocre was a nice way to get him back to reality, as he seems much milder and down to earth now. Go play Sigil, by the way. I agree. If you want something good from Romero, go play Sigil.
Okay, I have Storm Beagle from the Retrotopia podcast who says, "This just makes me think of daikon radish, and now I want some sushi." End quote. Agreed.
Yes. Delicious. Delicious. Next is Raging Demon from the Command with a K List podcast. And this is in response to something he posted that was strange in our Pontifications channel. And I asked him, what did this have to do with Daikatana? And he replied, ha ha ha, sorry, mate. Wrong place. Read those out. And Demon says, sorry, mate, wrong place. Thank you, Raging Demon.
Wow. All right. I don't even know what to make of that. All right. And in what is perhaps an unsurprising turn of events, we have a relatively short pontifications list for Daikatana. Wrapping things up, we have Alt, who says, I always think Daikatana is a shmup because of the name and the cover art. I haven't had the pleasure or displeasure of playing it yet, so I'm excited to listen to the episode when it airs to see if it's any good. And apparently there's a Daikatana Game Boy Color game. It released in the EU and Japan only, so that's pretty neat. You know, it is pretty neat. And from what I've heard, maybe a better game than the actual Daikatana. So
you've played that version, right, Mike?
Yes.
Is it the best version?
I don't know. Do you enjoy top-down, like 8-bit action RPG adventure games?
I'm hit or miss.
Okay, because it's a while. Obviously, it's a pretty different game. It's not a first-person shooter, so
right.
Best version is pretty subjective, I guess. I really enjoyed what I played of it. I want to finish it, but I had a billion other games to play for things, so I played a couple hours, and I thought it was great. It made me want to go back, and I agreed to this podcast because of it.
Well, you're
maybe that means we need to
welcome.
Yeah, so maybe we need to do another episode later on down the road, and we can have him back on to talk about Daikatana for the Game Boy Color.
Maybe it's the definitive version. Maybe it combines all the best parts of both games. Because I know that you don't have followers, but you play as everybody separately. So you get to play as Mikiko and Hero and Superfly, but individually.
That might be worth checking out. We might need to, yeah, Shane is right. We might need to bring you back for Daikatana Part 2.
Ooh,
Game Boy Color Boogaloo.
It's like, can't wait.
See, you thought you were going to get Quest 64 with the official Quest 64 guy, but you got Daikatana.
You got two different kinds of Daikatana today.
Exactly. All right. We are going to let you know whether or not we think this game holds up today. And as we are wont to do, as tradition dictates, myself and Shane will give our thoughts first and then give our guest the final word. I will kick it over to Shane here. You can kick us off and let us know, does this game hold up today?
I mean, like, that's predicated on the notion that the game held up ever, right? And I feel like that's a pretty clear, like, no. I mean, as much as, you know, I still have like just sort of like an ingrained fondness for John Romero just because of the early id Software and Doom and like how that was so influential in my, you know, early gaming life and things like that. I mean, you got to call a spade a fucking spade. Like, this game is not great. If it had been by anyone else, it might have been like, okay, well, this is kind of like a passable, you know, bargain bin FPS. Like, all right, it has some kind of neat ideas, but didn't really flesh any of them out at all. But man, they sure tried, you know, good on them, I guess. But given that it was from Romero and other folks that, you know, had come from that ilk, the expectations were through the roof and they came nowhere close. And it's not all bad. Like I said earlier, there were times where I found myself actually wanting to play it. Like I was enjoying myself, like not in spite of the game. I was just kind of having a good time. But unfortunately, those were kind of few and far between because there are just so many baffling design decisions that were made. Like, let's take the things that people like the least about FPSs, like collecting keys to move forward or finding hidden items in order to progress or escort missions. Who in their right fucking mind makes a game like 90% escort mission? No one likes those. In the history of ever has anybody liked those. So it's just like, I told Chris this earlier. It's as if I liken this to like prequel era George Lucas, in that he was high on his own shit and no one around him was telling him no. So he just did whatever the fuck George Lucas wants to do without any actual critical input. No real like editorial, like, hey, maybe don't call him Luke Starkiller because that sounds edgy and stupid. Like, let's maybe change that a little bit. There was none of that. So he just got to run wild, and we saw raw, unfiltered George Lucas, for better or worse, mostly worse. And I feel like this is the same case where it was just a very ego trip thing of like Romero being like, I am king shit. I made the Doom. I'm going to make this fucking amazing thing that's going to blow your tits off. And everyone around him was like, yes, you are the rockstar video game boy, whatever you want. And this is what we got. Like there's a reason that, you know, these things are team efforts and that there should be input from everybody involved, because if you run on one person's ideas and their ego, this is kind of where you go, where it's just this like directionless mess. And it's unfortunate because there are some glimmers of like actual fun gameplay in this, but by and large, I know there's like, unless you just are like us and want to go and experience these things for like historical purposes, I guess, it's not really worth your time. Like there's plenty of other better games that do some of the things that this game does far, far better, even contemporaneously, like we brought up earlier. There are just so many better options. It's like, why would you do this to yourself?
So Shane is not a fan of this game. That's what I'm understanding here.
Sword was kind of cool. That's about it. Yeah.
Cool. All right. My very short answer for my opinion here is the very short answer is no, but I don't want that to just be the defining answer here, because I look at a game like this and I think it is a game that was very ambitious. I think that they are trying to take chances. I'm not as critical as the whole entire George Lucas thing with Romero here. I think just if you look at the development hell it was in, I think it's a little more complicated. I think it does read that like Romero did have some ego there too at the time, but this game isn't as, and I said this in the gameplay, like the totality of this game isn't as bad as all of what was being said at the time would lead you to believe. It like and you said this about Greece, like if the entire game was set up in that Greece setting, I think you have a really good fucking game. I was enjoying myself a lot.
Yeah, you know what that's called, Chris? It's called Serious Sam.
Okay,
they fucking did that. Like, I mean, not Greece exactly. It was more like ancient Egypt, sure. But still.
Okay. But this game, this was a good time. And I don't like first person shooters, very infamously. I'm not a big fan of that genre. And I was enjoying myself almost through the totality of that level. The Medusa boss sucked. It was dumb. But other than that, I really enjoyed that level. And I enjoyed a lot of the Norway, the plague levels. The medieval levels. I enjoyed the majority of it until the game crashed out. And I think I could have had fun in the end. Yes, the first portion of the game in the future is a slog, and I did not enjoy it whatsoever. And there's nothing about this game that stands out amongst any of its peers. But you look at the RPG elements that it was trying to implement. Yes, Deus Ex probably, I'm not saying probably, Deus Ex did it a lot better. But it at least was trying to stand out in its own way. And I can appreciate that for all it's trying to do. Now, better than advertised doesn't necessarily mean that it's like something you need to go try out. It has a lot of problems. It has a lot of shortfalls, and there are a lot of areas I look at and say this could have been a lot better. I'm not going to sit here and say, like I already said, the answer is no. And to kind of sum it up, something that you said earlier, Mike, about what was kind of going on in development and how other games just kind of passed it by, and how this is the war turtle of FPS shooters in 2000, which I think is a very appropriate analogy. But what I see is that when id Software made Doom, it was a bunch of like bros that weren't expecting to make anything special. They were just making something. They let it feels like they either let their own ego get to their head or their own expectations of making the next big game come out. Like they put all this pressure on themselves. But what happened is what they created was special and was as for fun. That was almost the peak of what they could create as that team. And for some of them as individuals and what they could create with other people beyond that. Because what we saw is, as inspirational as their creation was, a lot of other creators picked that up and they advanced the genre forward without them. And so when I say that it felt like they were playing catch up to Half-Life, I really think they were playing catch up to Half-Life, but they didn't have nearly the talent. Very talented people picked up their legacy and made the first person genre something greater than they ever could, but they could not have done it without Doom. And I feel like Romero here is trying to recapture that magic desperately, but he just couldn't. And you see, we've already said it, the difference between Deus Ex and Daikatana, released by technically the same studio in the same year, is massive. And I think that's because of that. And it's kind of sad to see. And that's why I say no, it doesn't hold up because of that. They were trying to, and a middle of the road FPS shooter, I think, is much more deservedly. I know the pedigree really holds this game down, but if you take away Romero out of the equation, you're just approaching this as someone who knows nothing about that. This is average as hell. But does it hold up in a technical sense? Is it a masterpiece? No. But it's not like a 1 or 2 out of 10. That's absurd. So that's my long answer there. No, but it's not the worst. Mike.
I'm in a lot of the same vein of that, I guess. I like to, meet a game in its time and place and then evaluate it against its peers, from knowing that most of the games I play are from the late 90s and early 2000s. But like, even when you do things like that, like there needs to be an intersection between understanding that context and understanding that history and then like actually enjoying the game. And there wasn't a lot of that. I don't think it's like the worst game I've ever played, or even the worst first person shooter I've ever played, but it's like, it's not going to get any extra choices like when friends come over, even though we didn't play the multiplayer. Maybe the multiplayer is great. Maybe I'll convince a couple people into that. But like, as far as, hey, let's play through this thing because I've never played it, none of my friends are going to come over and ask to play Daikatana, and I'm not going to push them in that direction. The good feelings it did give me, though, were like the innovation, the time movement, and the weapon variety all did remind me of one of my favorite early 2000s series, Time Splitters, which did all this stuff better. But it did a lot of the same stuff, jumping through time, trying different weapons, varied characters, and then fun multiplayer, which maybe this game has that. I don't know if it's still got an active PC scene, but maybe the N64 multiplayer is fun. But as far as a recommendation, I would recommend people try it, but I would not. It's not this is a beacon of Nintendo 64 first person shooters. We know what those games are. And even I like to say Pokemon Snap is my favorite first person shooter on the system. And I would play, Snap takes like 3 hours to beat, and I would play Pokemon Snap 5 times before I would play this all the way through again, knowing the layout of the whole game and what's waiting for me.
Yeah, Pokemon Snap dominance.
Yeah.
Concur 100%. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on. Really enjoyed having you on here to talk some Daikatana. It's been great. Thank you.
It's entirely my pleasure. Great to be on the show. I always say don't meet your heroes, but, I got to meet Hero and my 2 podcasting heroes today. So,
thank you. I like how you tied that in to Hero.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on the internet, famously or infamously?
I'm mostly on Blue Sky now. I've kind of taken a Twitter hiatus it's not the most like pleasant place in Twitter land right now. And I don't think a lot of video game pages are getting the exposure they used to get like a year and 2 years ago. And most of my online presence is to promote people like you guys to make sure that the online video game discourse is full of like intelligent and welcoming video game content. And there's not much of that there either. So even if I share podcasts that I enjoy there, it's kind of falling on deaf ears. So most of my stuff is on Blue Sky right now at Quest 64 Official. I say that I'm a vigilante algorithm manipulator, and that's all I do on the internet. Like I'm just there to cause a ruckus, I guess. I don't have a whole lot of goals at this point, but sharing favorite podcasts and getting eyes on my internet friends that I've made since I started these accounts is goal enough, lofty things for me to shoot at. So that's what I've been doing.
That's awesome. I love that objective. And hopefully we can find a way to bring back more positivity to the video game online discourse, because it can be toxic. And I always hate seeing that toxicity in video game discourse, even though we just released an episode about what franchises we think need to die, as I say that. So,
I mean,
but
some of them were mercy killings, you know?
Yeah. You can do it in a positive, like, manner. You can have fun while you're talking about it.
Yeah. I don't think we were too positive, though, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you.
He's like, well, I tried.
Thank you for what you bring to the online discourse, is what I'm trying to say. And I really do appreciate it. It's very much a perspective that we need on the internet right now. And I'm glad that you have manipulated the algorithms, so to speak, to get so many people just appreciating your content, because it is positive, and I think it's also a lot of fun. So thank you so much for what you contribute out there. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the kind words.
All right, Shane, you want to roll us out?
Yeah. He's the benevolent agent of chaos. There you go. That's the way I like to look at it. But hey, as far as we are concerned, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If this happens to be your first time stopping by, maybe consider checking out all the other things we've got going on out there on the internets, because we have so many episodes. There's more to get. We've actually crossed over the point, I found out, where most podcast services will like cut off like the backlog. And that apparently is 300 is generally the max. So we have surpassed that. So it may be that our very, very early stuff will not be on things like Apple Podcasts or things like that anymore, which arguably may be for the best. But if you really wanted to go back and find those, you certainly could do that at our website. That feed is always full. It's got all of our stuff to the beginning of time. And you can find that, as well as all of our other goodies, whether that happens to be the Patreon or the merch store, if you'd like to support the show in that fashion. Merch store, of course, gets you cool stuff. The Patreon will also get you cool stuff, but it's mostly digital in that we put out even more bonus content over there. So if you simply cannot get enough, well, we've got you covered. So you're welcome. But check those out all at one convenient spot, and that is our Linktree. So head on over to linktree/retrohangover. That is linktr.ee/retrohangover. You will find all the neat things, all the shinies. Chris, I didn't really mention it. So what else do we got over there? Can people watch us, like play games, do things? Is that a thing that people can do?
Do you like feet pics?
Oh, hell yeah. All right. Now we're talking.
Do you like buttholes?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, you're not going to find any of that over at our Twitch streams. I know I know a lot of people are disappointed now. DM me. If you head over to twitch.tv/retrohangover or our YouTube channel, you can watch us live on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we are there usually until 11. We play games poorly. And we talk about how you could see butthole pics. But you know what? I'm very obsessed with buttholes when it comes to this part. I might need to talk to someone about that. But anyway, if you want to show up at those streams and talk about buttholes, then you can at 9 p.m. Eastern time at twitch.tv/retrohangover or over on our YouTube channel. So see you there.
You know, I got to be honest, with the amount of times that you've brought up things like that in relation to our Twitch and YouTube streams, I am surprised at how generally tame our chat has been. I mean, that's not like an invitation necessarily. It's more just an observation, but you know.
I'd rather talk about buttholes than politics.
What's the difference, really? Anyway, on that note, until next time.
Play with your time-traveling glowy sword joysticks.
Shane here with a quick message. You know, the one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this. It has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee. And Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.